What's good, everybody? So tonight we are talking about 28 years later, the sequel to 28 weeks later and 28 days later, one of the best zombie movies of all time. This one is one of my probably my most anticipated movie of the year. It's not James Gunn's Superman. This one I've been once this one was announced, I think last year, that Garland and Boyle were coming back and they were going to do this new set of trilogy. Um, it got me really hyped to see what they were going to bring next because that first one just changed, not just changed the zombie genre, but it really brought a whole new horror for the early 2000s with 28 Days Later. So this one I was really excited for. Let's start my review. It also, yeah, 28 Days Later also brought out a breakup performances by Killian Murphy and Naomi Harris, who are now well-known movie stars today. Um, After watching 28 Years Later, I needed some time to process what I just watched because it didn't meet my expectations. And if you have expectations for this movie, my advice is to expect the unexpected. 28 Days Later was ugly, dark, gritty, and it was felt very homemade. Where this one, it still had the ugly, the dark, and the gritty, and it was still grounded for the most part, but it didn't have that homemade feel like 28 Days Later. Again, they have a bigger budget, but overall, I thought this was a full-on Danny Boyle movie. The cinematography, just the shaky style, the intense moments, the drama. Very much a Danny Boyle movie with Alex Garland writing the script. Um, some of the visuals I really enjoyed were the silhouettes of like the zombies and certain scenes that were just kind of shot with like the soldiers and just a variety of different things that they really showed on this film. It felt like a very big spectacle kind of movie, and I thought that part really lived up to what this movie was because it was beautifully shot, especially with a movie being shot on an iPhone. And I'm sure that they shot in other ways, other things too, to make it a movie feel. But I was really impressed with what Daniel Boyle did. The cast I thought was really good too. I mean, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer,
Williams.
Alfie Williams, uh, Ralph, probably butchering his name, Ralph Fiennes. Fiennes. Um, Fiends, I thought were all really good performances. Alex and Danny added a few new layers to this world with their zombies, and if yeah, excuse me, um, Alex and Danny added a few new layers to their world with the zombies, and if the entire world was and answer some questions if the world was infected. For example, the zombies moved in packs this time, not singular. That's how they know how to survive better. You can tell that they really evolved after 20 after 28 years later, where they're more in packs. They're kind of more caveman like. They're more super strong, a little bit self aware of what's going on. Apparently, they can also have sex too. So Alex Garland really added a lot of new wrinkles with his story. Some of it was questionable. I liked the first half, but I really love the second half more. I think once they connected with Dr. Ian Clenson, played by Ralph Fiennes, I thought like that kind of felt like I was back in that world of 28 Days Later. It just took some time to get those moments. There's a beta switch with this, which would which some people might be a little mixed about, but it didn't bother me. I really like Jodie Comer in this as Elsa, and I thought she really did a phenomenal job. Some of my favorite moments was how she protected her son Spike while he was sleeping from a ghoulish zombie, and how she just took him out. And I really liked kind of the scene when they gave you a backflash of how Spike was saved from that zombie. There's a lot of intense moments in this film. Just to circle that back. As for Ian Kelson character, he kind of reminded me of Dr. Matthew Logan from Ramirez Land of the Dead because of how he sees the zombies. He still sees them as people, hence why he didn't kill Samson. He just kind of left them there for paralyzed. And I also think he likes the fact that this guy goes out and rips heads out of bodies, and he gets to put more skulls on his temple. The negativity of the film, I would say, characters' decision making with which will cause the audience to probably complain. The ending was very cartoonish. I got more of like with Jack O'Connell's character Jimmy and the gang of Jimmys. I think people were comparing this like the Power Rangers. I kind of thought of this as a callback to Clockwork Orange with the Droogs gang. That's kind of what they reminded me of. Maybe more of a callback to that. But overall, I thought this movie was really good. The characters were good. The performances were good. Danny Boyle and Alice Garland brought a movie that was very engaging and kept me interested. I didn't feel any of the pacing of this movie. I thought this was a movie pretty much what you expect what a good spectacle movie should be, and a good solid horror movie. Just not great. My score for this is a 8 out of 10.
Alrighty. Side note, I was gonna put some makeup on and look like an infected, but I don't have any fake blood on me. Or bread.
Then fucking sacrifice for your craft, Devin. Get that, real blood and, come on, sacrifice. This is art we're talking. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Or I could just take some ketchup and just put that on my face. Like put it under my eyes. Anyway, just like with Rome, I am also a big fan of 28 Days Later. I first watched that movie for one of my horror-thons. I don't remember what year, and I thought it was a great post-apocalyptic zombie horror movie. And the sequel, 28 Weeks Later, is also solid. And like with him, 28 Years Later was also one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Those trailers alone got me hyped as fuck for this movie. Like, I will say, like, the first trailer for 28 Years Later is probably one of the best trailers for a movie I have ever seen. Like, that's how you do a trailer. Because goddamn. And after seeing it yesterday late afternoon, I can gladly say this movie did not disappoint. I thought all of the acting was fantastic. Aaron Taylor Johnson as Jamie, Jodie Comer as Isla, and Alfie Williams as Spike. They all had great chemistry with each other. They all did great jobs with their roles, and I liked the family bond, especially with Spike and his mom. Ralph Fiennes is Ralph motherfucking Fiennes. He's always a delight to watch, and he's great here as Dr. Kelson. Even writing, he was great in a short role as the Swedish NATO soldier Eric. I do need to give some praise to Alfie Williams. This is the first movie I've ever seen this kid in, and he impressed the hell out of me. I can see this kid maybe someday going places. I really liked him. I really liked his mom. I really liked their chemistry. I thought the cinematography in this was beautiful. I know they said like that some of this was shot on like iPhones. Honestly, I couldn't tell. Like, I loved the use of shadows. I loved all the wide shots in the movie, especially like with the zombies like getting ready to attack. Look, I'm just saying, running zombies are fucking scary. Sure, yeah, I like the old fashioned, like, slowly walking zombies too. But running zombies are fucking terrifying. I really liked the pacing in this. I thought the pacing was great. Like, not once was I ever bored. I didn't feel like any scenes dragged. Like, I was engrossed. I was invested in what was going on. I thought this was just as intense and scary as the first two movies. I still like the post-apocalyptic setting, but there are some things that prevent me from giving this like that perfect 5 out of 5, because while I do think the movie is great, there are some things holding it back. One is, and my big issue with this movie was the editing. Like, it was way too choppy and spastic. Like, too many weird cuts, too many weird transitions, like weird clips just randomly inserted into scenes, and it was really taking me out. Like, it was starting to give me like Baz Luhrmann like flashbacks to all like the choppy seizure spastic editing he does. And my second issue, there's a bit of a plot hole. And that's with Jamie, like Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Like after Spike tells him like to get out after he caught him cheating on his mom, he just disappears. And then he just comes back at the very end. Like, bro, like, where'd you go? Were you just fucking that woman again? You know, I think it would have been nice if he tagged along, or like he was trying to like prevent them like from not going out to to try and find the doctor. And then my last problem has to do with the ending. At first we were off to a really good start, with Spike, not going back to the village and wanting to set out on his own, killing the infected. I loved that. That was awesome. But then there's this weird tonal shift, and Spike gets saved by Jimmy, the kid in the beginning of the movie. But there's a bunch of other guys along with him, and Jimmy is dressed like Jimmy Savile. The moment I saw that, I said out loud in the theater, "What the hell?" I'm like, huh? What? Well, why is this here? Like Roman and I were talking about it backstage. Like, this is a very British movie, and for better or worse, he was a huge part of British culture. And I guess they were trying to keep it like, keep that grounded, like British setting, and like give it a reference. But I don't know what the hell what the point of this was. Why didn't they just have Jimmy just be an older version of himself? I mean, it's awesome seeing Jack O'Connell, especially since I fucking loved him as Remick in Sinners. But it should have just been an older version of himself. I don't know why Alex Garland and Danny Boyle wanted to randomly bring up one of the worst sexual predators in history, but here's the hoping Spike doesn't get diddled in the sequel. Danny Boyle, please don't do that. Anyway, overall, this was a great sequel. I'm happy to say the consistency continues. And I know there are people that were disappointed with this movie. I can see why, but I can gladly say I'm not one of those people. I'm looking forward to Bone Temple next year. And if you're a fan of the first two movies, check this out in theaters. I think this is absolutely worth seeing, and I'm giving it a very, very strong 8.5 out of 10. Maybe if the editing world was a little better, this would get a higher score from me.
Nice. Anyway. All right. So 28 years later, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland deliver a great third act with a substandard zombie film preceding it. My experience with Danny Boyle's zombie franchise is a bit of a dodgy one. I like the first film enough, but I do feel it is pretty overrated, as the second half featuring the military lets it down. Good, but overrated. I eventually watched the second one, which is considered lesser by many, yet I found it to be more engaging out of the two, now most engaging out of the three. Having one of the best openings to any zombie film ever and story that follows through, I was pleasantly surprised. While many expected months to succeed weeks, it just never happened. When enough time had passed, Boyle and Garland returned to the franchise and decided to skip months entirely and made it years. I was indifferent until the first trailer, enthralling and arguably the best trailer for any movie since the finest example in 1979, Alien. So with that, I was excited. And when I went to go see it, while I saw a great film, I am still left with a hole of disappointment I will get into in this review. First, let's start with the acting. I felt that most of the actors in this movie were good. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson has some interesting bits with his performance, mainly that he is supposed to be representative of how far humans have gone in this brave new world. And by world, I mean country. But there isn't really much to him, and I feel as though he is kind of wasted here. He tries, but I feel like he exists as sort of this shade of gray theme device, that the character exists more as an allegory than an actual person you care about. Jodie Comer does a bit more as the degenerative mother to Spike and wife to Aaron Taylor Johnson. I don't remember his name. In the second half, she does a bit more and does some interesting things with her character, and she plays someone who isn't all there very well. I just wish we got a bit more of her. Alfie Williams as Spike does a good job with what he is given. Again, I feel like the writing lets him down, despite the fact he is doing very well, and is acting very, very well against very established actors. I hope he gets more roles after these films. Then finally, we have Ralph Fiennes. Despite not appearing in the movie for very long, he gives an absolutely brilliant and excellent performance. He most definitely steals the movie, and it feels like Alex Garland saved all of his good writing for him. Or maybe Fiennes is just that good. But it is unsurprising he gives such an amazing performance here. Maybe one day he'll win one of those golden statuettes. But I ain't holding my breath. Although the dialogue was definitely hard to hear half the time because British. The technical aspects were fantastic. Tons and tons of memorable shots and dynamic fluidity with the camera. I love how you had like a kill cam for a lot of the zombie kills in this movie. It felt almost like a video game in that respect. It was shot primarily on iPhones and less official film equipment, which certainly gives the film a unique look and reminder of where this franchise came from, as the original was shot with a Sony camcorder. I thought some of the editing was a bit choppy in the beginning and had some weird choices throughout, but it was nothing noteworthy or bad, just being a bit nitpicky. The stock footage was definitely a choice. I thought the gore and kills were fantastic, definitely some of the best parts of the movie in the first two acts. I also didn't mind some of the zombie lore sprinkled throughout. I just wish we got more of that. Well paced for the most part. Started feeling the runtime in the middle, but I was never bored or anything throughout. The music was good, albeit strange, but I was a little sad we didn't hear the In the House in a Heartbeat, the main theme of the franchise. I mean, I think there was something at the end that sounded similar, but I don't think that it was the same track. At the most, a very strange remix. The plot was nearly non-existent. It was essentially just showcasing the world that was set up 23 years prior in Danny Boyle's initial film. It was just going through the motions of what was going on in Britain now, how this little island community works, presenting dystopian ideas, how far gone these people are in this world. But unfortunately, none of it is terribly interesting. Just kind of showing us the world, but not really doing anything to bring us in. The thing that kept me really going throughout most of the movie was the dynamic cinematography and the gore and kills. I just wasn't feeling what was happening. It was fine, but it wasn't holding my interest a ton. It felt like, to me, things happening in the movie with thinly veiled one-dimensional allegory that has been done a million times before. Wait. Are you telling me that the humans are worse than the zombies? Wow. We've only seen that a trillion times since the fucking beginning of this subgenre introduced in 1960. Thanks for that depth, Alex. Speaking of the plot, though, well, again, what little of it there is, I noticed fairly early on, and especially at the end of the movie, this really isn't a sequel to 28 Weeks Later, because none of the plot threads from that movie are ever talked about properly. The idea that maybe humanity can be saved from the virus with possibly immune humans, never addressed. The infected invading Paris, Oh, apparently the white flag French stopped it off screen, maybe. So instead of these really intriguing plot points getting addressed, we got glaringly obvious and one-dimensional Brexit commentary. Thanks, Alex and Danny. So while the first two acts were nothing special, once the character of Eric entered the picture, it definitely got better. He brought moments of levity and laughs to an overall depressing and melancholic film. A nice breath of fresh air. Shortly after, Ralph Fiennes enters the picture, and it's almost a completely different fucking movie. Like, where the fuck was this throughout the rest of it? Quality, layers, engaging storytelling, nuance. Hello, my old friends. Nice to see you again. What Ralph Fiennes and his story brought to this movie single-handedly saved the fucking thing from being a decently engaging but run-of-the-mill zombie flick with tone-deaf commentary and allegory. It had the same style we saw throughout the film, but it gave us a wonderful character-driven piece. Fiennes, despite being in the film for a few fleeting moments, makes this worth watching single-handedly, makes this worth the price of admission alone, makes this third act the best zombie-related anything I've seen since Train to Busan, which I still argue to this day is the greatest zombie film ever made, next to Romero's zombie opus with Day of the Dead. Yes, better than Dawn of the Dead. I fucking said that. Day will always be better than Dawn. Suck my dick. As I said before, maybe Garland saved all of his greatness towards the final act. Maybe Ralph Fiennes is just that good. That just including him and him alone reminds us of what greatness on film truly means. In this last act, we see these characters that were relatively flat and uninteresting go through these brilliantly constructed arcs of grief and loss, showcasing that even in apocalypse, we still deal with human loss rather than infected ones, that life can be taken away not by a virus, but by happenstance, by just being unlucky. What Williams, Comer, and Fiennes share in these few scenes meant more to me than the rest of the running time. It possibly makes it even more aggravating that this greatness could not be the entire film. I stand by that this should have been Fiennes' film. The level of nuance and grayness that he brought to such a one-note film left me feeling things that God knows I didn't feel throughout. He should have been the main character, and while I wouldn't say his talents were wasted, it left me wanting more. Not in a good way, more in a I was kind of fucking gypped kind of way. Considering the next film will not be directed by Boyle, much like my favorite 28 film, it makes me more excited, especially with the title that highlights what we saw here, The Bone Temple. So one can only hope that Fiennes has more of a part in the next film. I do wish it could have ended with Alfie placing the skull on top of the monument because I feel that would have been a better ending than Boyle and Garland taking the piss out of Jimmy Savile for some reason, although definitely the most British thing I've ever seen in a movie. Overall, it's a great film, but mainly for what was brought to us in the final act. The rest of it was fine, purely as a run-of-the-mill zombie flick. Nothing more to me. You should have just made this, nothing more, to me at least. You should have made this a prelude to the next film as a short film just featuring Fiennes. It would have made the film a whole lot better. Since the first two acts, to me, are like a 6, and the last act is a 10, a perfect middle ground would be an 8 out of 10. And that is my rating for 28 years later.
I quoted Cannibal Holocaust in the private chat, like when you were doing the whole like, oh my god, humans are evil. Like that immediately it reminded me of like I wonder who the real cannibals are.
So Danny Boyle said in an interview
real
that
line in the movie.
Yes.
Oof, geez. Okay, maybe I won't watch that one then.
So Danny Boyle did say Ralph Fiennes will have a main role or a much bigger role in the second one. The next
Yeah,
one.
no, I remember
Yeah.
saying. I remember, him saying that.
It all comes down to Alex Garland's writing because it's a hit or a miss.
Yeah.
Is he writing Bone Temple?
Yeah, he's writing all
3.
Yeah, he's writing all 3 of them.
No, like like I said in our review of Civil War, like Alex Garland and I, we have a complicated history because I like some of the stuff he's written before, like 28 Days Later, this, and I fucking love Dread 3D. But when it comes to stuff like he directed, the only stuff I liked, directed stuff I liked from him was Civil War and Warfare.
Yeah. I mean, he's a hit or a miss, especially with his writing. That's why I hope
Yeah,
nothing
and-
happens to. Sorry, that's why I'm hoping nothing happens to Spike because of Alex Garland's writing.
Yeah, one could hope, because I know these movies are super fucking bleak. That if they're gonna do that, especially with the Jimmy Savile clones, I hope to God that's not the case.
But like, why else would they set it up? Like, that's
Right.
kind of that's what I was thinking when I realized who they were and who they were like essentially satirizing. I was like, oh God, they're gonna fucking do that, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, Garland, it's just Garland just doing Garland things, especially since he's going to use a lot of his history from Britain for these movies. Because he's talked about, like, the reason they went back to this because they get to do a Britain story again. And that was obviously that's part of the history.
Yeah. But I just
for
felt,
better or worse.
yeah, I just felt that like it should have ended with Alfie, like at the very least ending it with putting his mother's skull on top of the monument. That, as I said, that would have been a very perfect sort of ending. It would have left a lot to be like, oh, where does he go from here? But we know there's a second movie coming out, so you could have just saved that. But I understand that there was some loose threads that could have been properly tied off. And with that, I think it should have ended with him getting stuck at the hill and the zombies coming towards him, and then it cuts. I understand that would have been a lot of people would have been pissed, could have been a cliffhanger ending, but unlike like Dead Reckoning or Across the Spider-Verse, it was actually shot back to back, so we would have gotten that like finality
Conclusion, like, next year.
soon. Yeah,
Right.
like less than a year. It's coming out less than a year. It's about
6 months.
around 6 to 8
7
months. So yeah, it's we're gonna be getting that soon. So I just
I think it should. I think it should have at least. I think it should have at least stopped at when his dad gets the note and the baby.
Right.
Because then he's saying like, I'll come back to the village when I'm ready, and it just ends with this kid killing infected, not being saved by Jimmy Savile. Like, just ended like, all right, this kid's gonna be a badass.
Yeah.
I'm fucking ready. Let's go. Or maybe he becomes like maybe he becomes like the doctor's like apprentice.
Yeah, his protege. I was
Something,
thinking
yeah.
that too.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
protege. And he is gonna be in the next movie, and Cillian Murphy's coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He said that he would appear at the very end of the second film, so he won't be in it for very long. But yeah, he said like hopefully that Cillian Murphy being in it will get them funding for the next movie, which that's that I hope for it, because that's, even if it's not good, it's like the vision should be completed and that kind of thing. But
Yeah, the second
Yeah.
one's supposed to be about evil and just the evil themes and stuff like that. I mean, and the third
Yeah.
one's supposed to be like redemption. At least that's what Danny Boyle described it as.
yeah,
And Aaron Taylor Johnson's coming back too.
yeah,
Like, he's gonna be like searching for Spike.
yeah.
I wonder that's how like Jim comes back in the fall when he meets Aaron Taylor Johnson's character Jamie, not Jimmy. Too many J's in this movie.
Yeah. But I think I think just Ray Fiennes was just so fucking good. I just love how like he just comes in and he's just like, all right, like to like an alpha infected to it. So he's like, all right, buddy, calm down here. Let me just take this skull with spine in your head. Let me just take that real quick. I love like
Yeah.
it's just like I love God, Ray Fiennes is so good. Fuck the Academy for giving Adrian Brody another fucking Oscar. He should have gotten it for Conclave. Fuck
Agreed.
the Academy.
I know.
God damn
I
it.
I kind of sorry. I just to go back to what the character Sam that told Spike about Ralph Fiennes' character, how they like, oh yeah, he was with us, we left him alone, he was throwing dead bodies or something. They let because he didn't know there was a doctor until he heard that story from that character Sam. So I kind of wish we got like the story was take place more with Ray Fiennes' character, just because you kind of heard a little bit of backstory. Yeah,
in my review, I wish we got. I like because the thing is, like coming in immediately doing that, he had main character energy, like straight up, like because the thing is, what usually when you make like stuff about side characters, usually they don't turn out very good. Like the rare exception being like Better Call Saul, for instance, which is arguably an even better show than Breaking Bad. So there is that risk. Like sometimes you get like Logan, sometimes you get like the Minions. So it all depends on how good like the writing is in the spin-off. But like I see this character and I see what he's doing, and I'm like, this is enough for a full movie. Maybe not like a long movie. I know this was like maybe like 110 minutes. I think it was like an hour, 50 minutes, a little bit less than 2 hours, I think.
right.
I feel like he could have had a good concrete kind of movie. I mentioned in my review that like, should have been like just the third act. It should have been a short film, just to prelude the Bone Temple. But like honestly, I think it would have been just way more interesting to just have Ray Fiennes be the main character and like what he's doing, and then like I don't know, like just I feel like you could have made that work. I'm not saying Spike isn't interesting. It's just like it feels like he didn't have an arc, and then he had like an arc just throughout that third act, and then he goes on to do other things. But yeah, it just felt like kind of weird. Also, it also doesn't help the whole Jimmy Savile comparison, considering his dad was a priest. That definitely doesn't help matters either.
Yeah.
Well, a vicar, the British terminology, a vicar, which honestly, that sounds way better than priest. Like I love the term vicar. Like it's just like it just sounds like kind of more kick-ass a little bit. But like father, priest,
chaplain,
but vicar is just like it's got a lot of like hard consonants.
I like British culture in general. I mean, I am part Scottish, so like British culture has always been like very fascinating to me. I was also looking at like a Bone Temple, and the choice for director kind of has me worried.
Yeah, me too.
Nia DaCosta.
I think Nia DaCosta, her first film I've heard is very, very good. It's just I feel like the Marvels, Candyman, she probably couldn't do what she really wanted to do with those films, because the Marvels, under Disney, you're essentially a puppet for Kevin Feige. And then maybe for Candyman, she was probably let down by the writing, or Jordan Peele wanted to do something else. And
her and Jordan Peele wrote the script.
Maybe it was more him than her. I don't know, but like I still have faith in her, because I've heard her indie projects are much better than her big franchise projects.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I mean, if Danny Boyle sees something in her, then maybe there's hope for that.
I'm just curious.
Why I'm like,
sorry, John.
Yeah, no, that's why I have more faith in it.
I'm just curious with the shift in tone, because I think there's going to be a very different tone movie than 28 years later, since she's directing this movie. I don't see it being, I see it being a little bit different with the tone. but she's just following whatever Alex Garland wrote for the script.
Yeah. So maybe it'll be better because
Yeah.
you know, Alex Garland is a much better writer than she is, hopefully. So I know he's hit and miss, but
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking with men.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, she's directing a movie that's coming out this year in October, so maybe we can see that, and that'll be more towards of what she's gonna do with Bone Temple. It's gonna be called it's Hedda,
Hedda?
which is based on Hedda Gabler, which is a play. So old play, or
Okay.
old Norwegian play. So let's it's got a good cast. So we'll hope that that's something that's showcasing her talents more.
I do like a lot of the kills in this movie. I really like the one when Isa, the mom, saves Spike when he's sleeping. That was a really great scene. How like even though she's sick, she's still like that primal thing, protect your son. You know, that whole thing was a really great scene.
And even then, she did mention that it was like kind of coming in waves. She had sparks of like humanity left, so it wasn't like totally out of nowhere either.
Yeah, but it was such a great scene. I really like the shot of that whole sequence.
Yeah.
Same with the sequence with the alpha male going
the
after.
Sunset scenes were fucking great.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I also, one of my favorite parts was when one of the infected women was given birth, and
I close my eyes. I'm not watching that. I can't watch a normal birth, let alone a zombie birth. Fuck that.
And the whole
sorry, you go. Sorry.
Like the zombies giving birth, and Isla's like helping the infected with the birth process, like holding her hands, trying to talk her through it. Like that was actually a really good scene. So
yeah,
who knows? Either she was still pregnant when she got infected, or two infecteds had sex.
Unlikely, because I mean, what is it like? An infected birth lasts 28 years. I don't think that's likely.
No.
Or however long. I don't think she like had sex and then immediately became infected. And plus the way that the alpha reacted, he was only going after them when they had the baby. So, that makes me believe that the alpha, now obviously this is up to interpretation, but this is just how I'm interpreting it, is the alpha, I think, like, infected have sex and give birth, but the way that the virus is, it doesn't affect the young, so like they have to then infect the baby with the virus if they want it to like survive with the virus. So that's definitely like, it brings in some really interesting ideas of like what like zombie birthing processes, which doesn't sound interesting and sounds really weird, but like I'm intrigued by it. Like that was something, because I saw the pregnant lady, I'm like that's an interesting visual, but like I'm like that's weird, like how would that make sense? And that brought up more questions. And then when it was revealed that this is a major plot point, I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. But the way the alpha reacted, like how he was like looking at the woman, and how like he was like kind of looking at her, kind of smelling her, I think he like got the idea that his baby was gone. So that's how I interpret it, at least. And plus that alpha had a big honking nanner, so like how the hell can she stay away from that?
That thing had a huge fucking schlong.
Yes,
honestly, I wish Mark were here, because you know how much he loves big schlongs and loves talking about them. So I wish he were here talking about that. God dang it. Oh well.
Oh, like
But it's like it was like I was trying hard not to laugh because it was a serious, like it was a good that whole train sequence was also very
Yeah.
good. But it was like it was so funny because he was like running, it was serious, like Mom, get out of the train. It was like this whole thing, but then it's just like I just see this fucking dude's top just like slapping all over the place. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I ain't gay, but like I'm looking at this thing and it's hard to not notice. I'm sorry.
Dude, Drew and I were joking about that when we were watching the movie.
But like people were around me, so I didn't want to laugh. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to be like rude to other people's like theater experience. But like at the same time, I was like, how do you fucking not notice that?
Zombie!
Well, there's a theory that the zombies are just infected, and they're actually not. The people aren't really dead; they're just infected with this rage virus, and they're self-aware of what's going on. They just can't control their rage. Because the first one, there was a lot of moments where the zombies were talking briefly, you could barely hear them talk. So they are self-aware; they just can't help how they feel.
Yeah, I will agree, John. I kind of wish they brought up more from 28 Weeks Later. But I don't know, because there was a lot of like really good ideas in that movie, and I think they could have translated well here.
Yeah,
but it wasn't written by Alex Garland. That's the problem.
Yeah, it was a different director and a different writer. Yeah, because that was like a whole. I think I'm pretty sure Danny Boyle maybe executively produced it, but I don't think he wrote it. I definitely know he didn't write it, but like producing, I think maybe producing. Because I know, Juan Carlos
I didn't know that.
Frenadillo directed it, and he co-wrote the screenplay with 3 other people: Rowan Mark Jaffe, E.L. Levine, and Jesus Olmo. So they all did it, and John Murphy still did the music. They didn't even produce it either. It was just, it's
Boyle said he just stay on as executive producer, but they don't show his credit for it for 28 Weeks Later.
Yeah,
but he says he was
directing
EP.
Sunshine at the time.
Yeah.
That's why, because he was busy directing that.
So would this mean like that this is like the true sequel to 28 Days Later? Like 28 Weeks Later like didn't exist?
I don't know. Because I mean, remember at the end of 28 Weeks Later, the reconstruction failed. I mean, we know that.
Right.
And I mean, you could explain away certain things like, these were the only characters, because like as people remember, I mean, if you didn't watch 28 Weeks Later, sorry, but Imogen Poots and her brother allegedly had like this like this immune, they were like immune to the virus. So it's entirely possible that immunization didn't translate to other people and they were just immune, and like some people are immune but most people aren't. So whatever it is. And then like you could also make it like they were invading Paris at the end of 28 Weeks Later. I mean, it does say in the beginning the rest of Europe held back the infection. So it's entirely possible that, as I mentioned in my review, that the French held them back and they were like they didn't get far or something, and it was just, like they were able to handle it, but it was already overrun Britain, so they couldn't do anything. So that's the only way I can like interpret it, like, because that would be kind of suckish that like this whole movie was essentially like retconned because Danny Boyle didn't direct it, especially when he's not directing the next one. So it's like, I don't know. It just feels kind of weird to me that they would like just go on and retcon it, because I feel like I'm a little upset that they didn't like follow through with those plot points, but I feel like you could explain them away pretty easily. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
It's Alex Garland. Alex Garland wrote the script. He wrote the story, so that was his decision not to include 28 Weeks Later. That's what I think. That's what I think. Because he did mention that they referenced 28 Weeks Later in some small capacity, but they didn't explore whatever 28 Weeks Later did it with that movie. They just want to get back to what they built or what they did after 28 days later, or according to Alex Garland. I just think it's Alex Garland just being Alex Garland with a giant ego.
At least there wasn't men giving birth.
I agree.
Just women.
Just women.
Absolutely. But the themes are still there: the religious themes, the socialism themes, the loneliness, the dark, the stuff from the first one. I still spot there's still a lot of that stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the barbaric Viking stuff they kind of reference or mention, especially after Spike made his first kill. They all celebrated his first kill for a zombie, kind of initially making him like a man for getting his first kill, which I thought was a pretty cool reference, which is pretty cool.
I definitely really like that, like how they use that costume, because let's be honest, in like a post-apocalyptic world like this, a kid killing his first zombie would be seen as a big deal to other people, especially in like a small community like that.
Yeah, but I also love how, like, in this movie, and I like how this was addressed, like, you have, like, this kid who has only known this zombie dystopian apocalypse his whole life, and then you just have this Swedish dude being like, oh yeah, my bro works for Amazon, and like this whole other thing. It's like, I love how the rest of the world is like totally fine, yet it's just Britain is just like this demonic hellscape. I mean, to be fair, Britain is usually a demonic hellscape, but that's beside the point. It just, in this case, like this fucked up quarantined zombie fuck up, and then the rest of the world is like, hey, how was your day today? Yeah, my day was great. It's just, I don't know. It's just like really, really funny to me.
It threw me off when you was talking about when he showed him the cell phone, the internet, and delivery. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And then that was my answer. Like the whole world was not infected. It was just Britain. I'm like, man, that is so fucked up. They just kind of left him there.
Yeah, fuck you guys. You can deal with that shit. We tried, but no. Jeremy Renner and Rose Byrne, they tried, but nah, fam. You can deal with that shit.
And we did it. Yeah. We did our part. You guys are on your own.
Yeah.
But here, take this little American flag. This will give you some hope. What is this gonna do? It's like they give it to the zombie. Stay back.
Don't be surprised if that's a scene in part 2, or in the next one or the third one, because that's something I can see Alex Garland putting in the movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anything more to say about 28 Years Later?
Great movie.
Yeah, I would say just for the third act alone, it's great. Again, I don't hate the first 2 acts. I just wish they were better.
Yeah, I felt like they spent more time on the island when you just didn't really get a chance to like explore more of like the rest of the inland Britain stuff, which I felt like that's what I was more looking forward to see what has changed after 28 days later, and what are the zombies doing now? How are they surviving? What have they mutated to? I got a few answers, but not a whole lot of not enough for me to say, okay, this is a great movie.
Fair.
Right.
But it's definitely a film spectacle, and I would say it's worth watching in theaters.
Absolutely.
Spectacles.
Now, is it time to announce the next review?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what is our next movie to review?
I believe our next review is going to be the new Pixar movie, Elio. And that
Or
will be
Elio,
hosted.
whatever it is.
Yeah. And that will be hosted by Rob.
Nice.
And then after that, I might as well mention this now because it comes out next week. Our next review will be Megan. After that will be Megan 2.0.
Thought you were gonna say
Nice.
F1.
No, I wish we were reviewing F1, but I had to remove it from the schedule because everyone wanted to do M3 instead. So I'm still going to be seeing F1 instead because
Yeah,
that
me
actually
too.
looks like a fucking good movie.
I'm down for a double feature. We can do both if we could. If the 3 or 4 of us, 5 of us see both movies.
Sure.
Maybe, but at the same time, like June is already like super packed.
Yeah.
This definitely makes up for the lack of content in May.
Then July.
Yeah.
July is gonna be like every week good movie. Or a good movie coming out.
Here's the hoping.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we go live. Yeah.
And support
Yeah.
your local theaters.
And remember,
Yes.
the monkey did it. It's all because of the monkey.
Actually, because of dumbass activists, but that's beside the point.
That too.
Damn you, PETA.
It's all Peter's fault.
Exactly.
All PETA's fault. The monkey was innocent.
Yeah. All right, that's gonna do it for us. See y'all next week.
And we have brought light into the world. You're welcome, America.